This is Thoughts Become Things. With each episode, we'll help you reach the highest creative potential that God has for you. With your host, a teacher, life coach, a dream coach, and motivational speaker, Jeremy Lopez.
Hey guys, Jeremy Lopez here, and I'm thrilled you guys decided to join with me today again in this amazing podcast. And isn't it great to know that we have so many audios and videos and articles and things on the internet world today that can educate us in each and every genre of life? I mean, isn't it cool? Isn't it awesome to know that we can crush it? We can really just crush things in our lives as far as mastering these things in our lives by so much data and information that we have access to today. It's amazing. It blows my mind to think that we have access to anything, videos, audios, articles. I mean, we can go to website after website. We can just Google a sentence. How many of you guys have ever just Googled a sentence, like a crazy sentence, and yet you get someone, or if not many responses of, well, I've done this before and this is how it turned out, for me, or tells me like, scientific proof of something, or, hey, did you know this is, found in this research book? I mean, it's crazy to think that we live in a generation that has so much like access to life, and anything and everything we want to know about. And it excites me. It excites me to know that, guess what? We don't have to be, for lack of better words, ignorant. We don't have to walk in a world that is, a lack of knowledge, because truly we live in a society now where, man, we have anything we want, like any information and wisdom and knowledge. You don't have to worry about calling your professor, calling your mom and dad if you feel embarrassed to do that, or asking your boss how to do something. I mean, now we have it to where, folks, you can Google your own private questions, and yet guess what? Someone in the world, if not hundreds, others have actually asked the same thing or done their research on the same question you're asking. And so it's great to know that in the privacy of our own home, we can Google and look up any information, any question we have. And so truly, folks, there's not a reason why any of us should be, for lack of better words, ignorant. There's not an excuse today why anyone should say, I really don't know about that, or I don't have access to that, or I don't know, how to do this or that. Because I've learned in my life that I Google pretty much everything. I mean, I Google, 10 steps to this, 5 steps to this, and how to clean out a pond, because we have a koi pond, to healthy foods to eat. I mean, you can Google, folks, how to cut grass. You can Google how to take care of greenery. You can do whatever it is you want to do, and lo and behold, folks, guess what? There is information on it. And so it's exciting. It really is exciting. But I wanted to sort of talk to you guys today about something that is totally opposite from what I've been talking about. And that is this, is learning not to get in the middle of situations. I mean, let's face it, folks. Honestly and truthfully, how many of you, if not all of us, have been stuck in the middle of a situation that we look at and we say, oh my goodness, I feel like I've been drawn, into the middle of this, or dragged into the middle of their divorce, or dragged into the middle of maybe having to go to court on a situation, or dragged in the middle of my siblings arguing, or, man, I feel like I've been dragged in the middle between employees or family members. And the truth is, we've all been there. I mean, let's face it, folks, we've all been there, correct? And we look around and we wonder, how did I do this? How did I get in the middle of this situation? And you know what I've realized in my life is, if we truly believe in the power of attraction, that like attracts like, we come to the realization and the revelation that we attract these things into our lives by either A, opening our mouths when we shouldn't, by giving an opinion, giving an idea per se to one or the other parties. And the truth is, sometimes we tend to get in the middle because we love one or the other or both parties. Do we not? But let's face it, folks. We don't want to be in the middle. And unfortunately, we live in a world and a society and a culture that really needs to be validated. I mean, how many of you, if you're in an argument with somebody, or you find yourself at a place where no one believes me, everybody believes her, takes her side or takes his side on this situation or that subject. And every one of us at one time or another within our lives have said to ourselves, if only she or he or my best friend or my spouse or my mother, my brother or my boss, if only someone could, and here's what we're really trying to say, could just validate my truth, could really see my side. And so what do? We don't realize it, but we drag people in the middle by asking them advice. Doesn't mean every time we do it, but the majority of times we are actually influencing someone else to be a part of our situation. And that is a good thing sometimes because we need the counsel of others, but the truth is we tend to not think about that person we're dragging in the middle. Because truthfully, folks, the moment you empower someone with knowledge about your situation, you have to be very careful, because the moment you do, you've got to remember and understand and realize that that person now is accountable, because you have held them to accountability of knowing your information, knowing your business, and whether they like it or not, guess what? They now are a participant because they have the knowledge and information that you have voluntarily given them. And so we have to be careful not to drag people, first of all, in the middle of something, unless we're sitting here letting them know, hey, I really would like your advice as an outsider, okay? So let's take this point of view of, let's say you're the one that needs the advice without having to feel as if you're dragging your loved ones, because truly if you love them, you're not going to drag them into the middle of your conversation. You're not going to drag them into a situation, because love would never do that. Love would cause someone to say, because I love you, I want to save you the hassle and the hell of you being in the middle of my situation. So we want to be able to let them know gently and delicately that I want your advice as an outsider. But here's what I'd like to do is I want to take your advice and I want to sit on it for a while, pray about it, meditate upon it, think about it, pondering upon it, and not make a rash decision based on what you tell me is, man, that's got to be true. Why? Because maybe it might be a little biased towards me. And so you got to be careful to make sure that you're not taking their advice because it sounds good to you. Why would it sound good to you? Because it sounds like you're favoring me and my side more than them. And that's what we're really saying. Because let's face it, no one's going to give you advice and say, well, to be honest with you, you're really in the wrong on this situation. How I view it is you're in the wrong and they're right. I mean, now, granted the fact, true love would tell someone the truth, okay? But when you look at that in an honest perspective, you're going to have to remember that a lot of times people won't always tell you the full truth, unfortunately, and tell you you were completely wrong. It looks like from my end of the deal, they're right. Because if they do, they know that they could jeopardize you and them then having friction and you getting offended by what they're telling you. And, I asked you for advice because I thought you would see my point of view better or more. And that tends to be that defense mechanism that we tend to throw up a lot of times. Is it not true? And so we have to be careful to know, do I really want their truth? Now, here's another thing I want you to see, folks, is if you're going to ask someone for advice, okay, about a situation you're involved in, remember, you're giving them the right to be honest with you and truthful. And true love does tell the truth because the truth sets us free. Love doesn't blind you. Love opens your eyes to see from their point of view. And here's another key you have to remember. They're going to be honest with you from a standpoint of seeing it from the outside. And so when you want to drag somebody into your conversation with advice, but don't want to drag them to the situation, remember, they can only give what they see from the outside. I mean, unless they become part of your body and they're inside of you or inside the other person, they really will never know maybe the tone of voice that they took with you or you took with them, or maybe the slight, let's just face it, folks, the slight sarcasm that maybe you projected to the other person, and you're like, but I wasn't sarcastic, but maybe it's so ingrained in you that you have a little bit of sarcasm in you. And truthfully, folks, I think I do. I think we all do. Let's just face it. We all have a type of little bit of sarcasm, but yet we'll throw in the LOL, in our text, and we'll throw in a little smiley face, a laughing face, because we want it to be blunt with a little sarcasm, but to get our point across. And if you think about it, what we're really saying is we're being passive aggressive. And folks, I'm guilty of it. Oh my God, I'm guilty of it. We all are. But what we're doing is we have to remember, if we allow someone to be honest with us, they're going to be honest with us, yes, but it's going to only be from an outside point of view. So you really can't base even their ideologies of an outside point of view, because they don't know the truth, because they don't live inside your body or the other person's body or the middle of the situation, unless they were present in every single solitary moment of the day between you and that situation or that person. Think about that. So really, they can never truly give us complete, powerful truth unless you allow them to be like an alien and inhabit your body. All right? And so they're going to give you some reasoning and some powerful balance to sort of weigh out the situation that you can be in to make your final decision on how to make this situation improved or better. All right? So therefore, you got to remember, not everyone can give you, that is the truth, because the truth is they're not really in your life, in your situation to its fullness, so they can only give you what they have perceived or what they've seen, which might be a slight 1/3 of the full pie, okay? Half of the pie or a third of it. And so I always say this. If you're going to ask for somebody's information, knowledge, whatever you want to call it, then make sure that you're not dragging them in because they see your side. Make sure you're not dragging them in because you think what they're saying to you is the full, complete truth, and yes, you see where I'm completely right and they are completely wrong. That other person's completely wrong. Because then you realize all you're getting is from someone who really has not been a witness to every ounce of your situation. Okay? So you have to take that into consideration. And that's maturity. That's what maturity really would speak of is, I've got to remember this is an outside point of view. But take the advice and apply it to yourself to make your own decision without dragging them into the situation. Well, he's on my side and she sees what I see and he said that I am right and you're wrong. And then you've hurt the other person because you've dragged them into the middle. And I was praying earlier and I was like, okay, Lord, what can I talk about today in this podcast? And this really popped in my mind. It's not something I'm going through or something that I've dealt with recently, but it is something that the truth is that every one of us has dealt with or faced in our lives. And so now let's put the shoe on the other foot. Can we do that for a moment? And let's say we're the ones, man. I mean, me and you are the ones who are the victims. We're the ones that have been dragged into the middle and we're like, how on earth did I do this? Here's an advice I would tell you that I would give myself as well, is always remember when someone asks you for advice about a situation that deals with two parties or two systems or me versus it or them or he or she, always make sure that you're letting them know. I always say, make sure you're giving them, the hidden information you have on loans or the information you see and, hey, if you just pay the tax on this book, we'll send you the book free. Or if you just pay the shipping and handling on this book, you'll get it free. And then you have the fine print that says, and by the way, when you buy this, when you pay for just the shipping and handling, you're automatically going to be charged $10 every month to receive another new book, and you're like, oh man, what have I done? And iTunes is awesome, but iTunes tends to do that a lot with their subscriptions, with people, we should say that apps that go through them, that you think this app is $2.99, and all of a sudden you look at the fine print and you realize that every month, the app is not $2.99, folks. It's like every month you're charged $2.99 to continue using the app. It's not a one-hit wonder. All right, one time only. And so you have to be careful. And so we want to make sure that we're giving information and advice to people within their situations that we know it involves something else or someone else. The advice to say, hey, let me tell you the fine print up front. And the fine print is, because I know that you love me and you're looking for advice within your situation, please understand that because you love me and I love you as a friend or spouse or brother, sister, whatever, that I don't need to get in the middle. So therefore I can only give you advice of what I have been limited to see with my own eyes and my own ears about your situation, you versus them, or the both of you. And that is, I'm not here to take sides, but I would say to both of you, sit down, talk this through, reason this out, weigh it out, don't bring a reaction, bring a response to the table and begin to work through this thing. That way, you're not saying you're right, they're wrong. What you're doing is you're giving advice that, if the other party was present too, they could receive from as well. Because the moment you take a side, which let's just face it, folks, everybody wants you to take their side. Everybody, it's just human nature to say, if only someone can validate me, write an endorsement to my situation, I would love it. And so we want to be careful to make sure that we're giving advice that even if the other party was present, that they would see that as well. And they both could say, wow, you know what? You're exactly right. Always remember to bring a response that brings reconciliation, or something that makes both parties talk it out, talk it through, walk it out. And the main thing is with situations is, most people react, and the reaction of both parties tend to spark a flame of resistance. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're causing people to see their situation from a response point of view and taking an easy point of view. Look, don't be in a hurry. Look at it before you say anything to that situation or that person. Making sure that the party you're leaving them with something, a food for thought, something to think about it. I call it gold nuggets. And when you do that, guess what? You won't have to worry about being pulled into the midst of it, because you've given information that is not just, for lack of better words, general, but very full of wisdom. It's full of wisdom, and it's a gold nugget that that it's not siding with one or the other. It's causing both parties to basically, for lack of better words, grow up and mature to say, sit this thing out, folks, together. Come and reason. The Bible even says something very powerful with God. And God says, come and reason with me. So God is even letting us know, come and talk to me. It's not, I didn't say, come up here and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to straighten your butt out. I'm going to tell you how it really is, and what you think, Jeremy, doesn't mean anything because you're the ignorant one and I'm God. God is so merciful and awesome and gracious that He doesn't even say that. He says, come and reason with me. In other words, hey, come and talk to me. Come and let's talk this thing through. Because it doesn't mean God is like going to sit here and say, well, gee, I never thought about that before, wow, you're smarter than I am. No, but God will begin to sit here and say, you know what, I want to hear your point of view. Because through your point of view, I want you to hear what you're saying, and I want you to grasp the concept of how you're saying it. The number one thing within therapy and counseling and life coaching is basically not agreeing with a person or not telling them what to do, but the main number one key in all these psychiatrists, psychologists, counseling and life coaching is letting the person see and hear their own words coming out of their own mouth that will usually answer their own questions, because they have the solution already in them, and hearing how they're presenting and posing the question. And when you do, it's like, bam, a red light goes off and you begin to realize that, wow, I just realized what I just said. I just realized how I've been feeling. I just realized that I knew the answer what to do, and I just subconsciously blurted it out to you as a life coach, a counselor, psychiatrist, psychologist, and I didn't realize that I was the one that made the mistake. Or now I see how I can fix this. Or now I see what I said to them that angered them so much. And guess what? All of a sudden, you realize that the treasure in that person just got revealed by themselves. And so that's why God always says, come and reason with me. Because when God says, come and reason with me, He says, let's talk this thing through. I want to hear you talk to me, and then I'll talk to you, and then we'll be able to collaborate together more. And so always remember that, folks, because truly, honey does draw a lot more B's. And that means that we want to be able to bring forth something sweet to the conversation, something that's gentle, kind, compassionate, that brings a balance of basically making people think for themselves. There's nothing in life worse than, for lack of better words, apostle, prophet, pastor, teacher, evangelist, or a doctor, or a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a professor, or anyone finding themselves at a place where they're letting you know, hey, this is a question and answer thing. You're ignorant, and so you ask the question and I'll give you the answer. No, all you can give from a point of view, folks, every one of us, including myself, all of us, all we can give is part of a truth. In other words, I can only give you half of an answer because if I was God, or if I had the full universe in my mind to really and fathom mysteries, then you know what? That would be a different story. But unfortunately, I'm only going to see part of the truth of what I've learned and adapted to within my life. So therefore, if you ask me something, I will share with you a portion of what I know is real and truth for me, but still, I should be humble enough to say, but that means that's part of my truth, but I don't have the full truth because of the fact that we're all in the same boat. We're all learning. We're all asking, seeking, and knocking together. And so take the part of my truth that I know that works for me, and if you can apply it towards your situation, then discover the other side of your own truth and blend the worlds together if you can to come up with a greater solution or a greater answer for your situation. And then guess what you've done? You've empowered the person to see and to seek on their own, to find out something by you just giving them a key that unlocks the door that causes them to open the door themselves and jump right on in to discover what has been in them the whole time. And that is reconciliation, bringing peace to the situation, bringing a balance to the conversation. And then you realize you've done good by not pulling yourself, dragging yourself, or maybe making the other person drag you into the middle of their situation. There's nothing in life worse, folks, than being in the middle of something and you say, how on earth did I get in the middle of now both parties either mad at me and not liking me anymore because I spoke up, because maybe I was asked, or maybe I wasn't even asked and I just thought I'd give my 2 cents. Folks, your 2 cents will destroy relationships. Can I get an amen? Your 2 cents will destroy relationships, like most of the time. So whatever you want to do, find a piece of balance to bring to your situation. If it's something someone has done you wrong in, maybe it's just you in that situation and you're not asking for anybody else's help, but you want to know what to do. Here's what I always recommend is see it from the other party's point of view. Try your best, try your hardest to put yourself in the other person's shoes to say, now then, is there something of maybe a slight sarcasm that maybe I know that I have, that maybe I just want to sort of cover it up to make myself look good? That's called pride. Is there something that maybe they took wrong that I said? Or maybe did I say something wrong? Or maybe is it how I approached them? Or maybe I approached them in a bad day? Or maybe the right time, but maybe I was a little bit too blunt, because I tend to be a little blunt at times. However the situation may be, always put yourself in the other person's shoes, because you might say, well, they smarted off to me, Jeremy. They called me and hung up in my face. Well, think of it this way. People generally, as a common census, of reality, of humanistic life, most people are not just going to hang up on you for no reason, because unless they're just flat out evil and just like, I just hate you and why did I even talk to you in the beginning, most people are going to look at you and say, because there's something that triggered me to say, you hit a trigger point in me and I hung up on you. That was wrong of me. Or, you said something, the way you said it was just really bad, or how you said it, or what you said. So you have to remember, folks, you have trigger points too, and so does everyone else. And because of that, we want to be able to be sensitive to everyone else's needs, to know, I might not know what sets you off. The truth is, I've preached sermons before and taught maybe just as kindly as that I thought, or nice as I could. And I've used maybe certain phrases. I'll give you a great example. last week we had it to where I do daily prophetic words every day to people that goes out to my social media director who posted all of our social media. And I had a certain lady who wrote in and says, I'm really offended by the comment you made. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my staff was like, this lady is offended. And I said, well, what did we say? How can you get offended at a daily prophetic word? And once I looked at it and I examined it from her point of view, the daily word pretty much said, don't bring things up to God, leave it at the altar, and then turn around and be an Indian giver. Now, I thought to myself, within my own perception, well, how on earth can that be offensive? Because we're talking about leaving things at the altar and yet not taking them back when you've given something to somebody. And all of a sudden, I thought to myself, if I put myself in her shoes, I found out that she actually is American Indian. And when I discovered that, automatically it made sense to me that a phrase that I grew up with all my life, thinking, don't be an Indian giver, which basically is saying that it's racist, because what you're saying is that Indians tend to give things to people and then take it back from them. And that's pretty harsh. But see, if I would have seen it from my point of view, I would have said this: oh my goodness, what's wrong with this lady? Oh, how sensitive and how overly sensitive she is. She must be wounded. She must be hurt. It's just a phrase we all use. But yet, when you stop and you look and you listen and you say, wait a minute, hold on. This is a woman who has an Indian background, American Indian background. And yet I never realized that phrase alone, no matter if I grew up with a phrase, it doesn't, growing up with a phrase, folks, doesn't validate it. Can I get an amen? Just because you grew up thinking that maybe white people were bad, black people were bad, American Indians were bad, or people from India were all bad people because they're not Christian people, or whatever. No matter what you think and you grew up with, growing up with a situation or principle doesn't make it right, folks. Time and longevity of something doesn't automatically just validate it to be right. You got to remember that we're all working out things of our lives of horrible traditions, religiosity, just junk that we learned from our parents and grandparents, and we love them all. But the truth is, they were not the best with being politically correct, and they weren't the best with treating people good. I mean, when we hear phrases like "Make America Great Again," we have to be careful, because we're thinking America once, beat black people. I mean, we called them slaves and horrible names, and yet we don't want to go back to anything that resembles or recognizes anyone on planet Earth being put down or cut down or hurt. No matter who or what a person is, no one deserves that. So we have to be careful to know, I don't want to go back. I want to progress in the future to be able to help people and see where I've been wrong and see my own faults. And so within this situation, I decided, you know what? This is offensive. And my longevity of saying something or thinking in the back of my mind all my life doesn't make it right or validate it. So you know what? Guess what? She was in the right. And so we took it down and recategorized the terminology. We rephrased it to where it wasn't about an Indian. Because you know what? Truthfully, American Indians are not people who take. It might have been a phrase maybe adapted by one person that happened to be Indian, or maybe it was just a phrase somebody coined. But the truth is, it's not fair. Is it not? It's not fair to people. And no one deserves that type of disrespect. And so when you see the other person's point of view and you realize, you know what, this is just not right, then you know what, you realize there's something about me I can work on. And truthfully, folks, there's something about all of us that we can all work on. So don't find yourself at a place where something's wrong with them, in a situation, but I'm the one right. Trust me on this, folks. You will always be wrong in pretty much every situation, even though they might be wrong as well. It takes two to party. It takes two to tango. The dance of tango, which means there's always something that caused a spark of something subconsciously within them you didn't recognize. But if you truly love and respect that person or the situation, you will put yourself in their shoes to say, you know what, I've got to work hard on myself to wonder and to really discover what it is that I don't want to do again. What it is that maybe I've said that I didn't realize that I've gotten a habit of saying, just thinking it's the normal, and by hurting someone. It's not worth it, folks. Life is too short to make enemies. And life is too short to draw people and drag them into your situation because you perceive you're right. Life is not about you being right. Life is about loving people and realizing right and wrong is beneath love. Love always transcends above right and wrongness every single time. Just because I don't want to prove my point to be right, I want to prove that I love you. And how I love you is respecting and honoring you and showing you the Christ in me that really says it doesn't matter anymore. Who cares that I'm wrong or right? It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what matters is that we have love one for another. So I wanted to leave you guys with that today on this podcast. Hey, if you get a chance, folks, please tell other people about the podcast. Man, I would love it if you guys shared this on your Facebooks or your Instagram or your Twitter accounts. Share this podcast. That's how we grow, with people really understanding and really basically revealing this podcast to people. Share it, share it, share it. Like it, share it, comment on it. If you get a chance, comment. You know, social media will tell you that they actually push people to the top in all social media networks. As far as the algorithms, they push them to the top when people comment and they like and they share. So if you don't mind, help us to be the head and not the tail. Help us to be a top of situations where people can get a healthy message of the gospel and a healthy message of powerful living, and giving them the tools and resources they need to be an overcomer. And by the way, let us know what you think about the podcast. Always contact my customer service staff and let them know by phone or by email and say, I'm really enjoying Jeremy's podcast. And if you get a chance, folks, go right now to identitynetwork.net and get my latest, greatest book and workbook as a combo. It's called Creating Your Soul Map. And I will teach you and train you the hows, the when, the wheres, and the whys of creating a vision board. And I'm one of the very first people that I know of, that tells you the spiritual implication of what goes on in the supernatural world, the spirit realm, while you are trying to create and manifest by projecting and writing and visualizing and putting things on your vision board to show you what goes on behind closed doors of the unseen world. And so get your book today and your workbook. It's called Creating Your Soul Map. You guys would love it. It's been one of our biggest sellers. We've sold thousands so far. It is amazing. Go right now, order Creating Your Soul Map book and workbook on identitynetwork.net. Hey guys, until next week, continue to create and manifest your deepest desire and dreams that God has placed in you. You deserve it. It is your time. It is your moment. Go have the life that you deserve today. God bless you.
This has been the Thoughts Become Things podcast with Jeremy Lopez, helping you reach your highest creative potential that God has for you. For more episodes, products, and information on Jeremy, visit www.identitynetwork.net.